Yo, what the heck is going on, party people? Welcome to the show. It's the 2021 Overwatch League team previews, and we're kicking it off with the team that you all have been asking for. The Los Angeles Gladiators. A lot of people asking for this one.
It's weird.
It's not that funny. What's so funny about that?
It's kind of weird.
Gladiators are good.
The Gladiators seem to have a lot of new fans recently.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Los Angeles popping off.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
All these new LA people heading towards the Gladiators.
crazy.
I don't know what's
Crazy.
happening. It's
I will
kinda
say
wild.
this. I don't know why I was laughing at the fact I was like, so many people asking us because anyway, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but I created an algorithm to decipher like what teams and like what order we should do the teams. We ended up throwing it out because it turns out all four of us had made a list of teams that we wanted to cover.
We
in a
all made
specific
the same
order.
algorithm,
But we-
and by
but we
an algorithm, Bren means a list of teams that
We didn't speak
judging
to
them by
each other.
popularity.
But we kind of we said we'd do the Gladiators.
Heck yeah.
Gladiators
They're a fun
first.
team.
They are a very fun team, and that's why we're doing them first. And the way this is going to
They're
work is we're going to
popular.
go. Matt, you want some? You trying to say something?
No, I'm not saying anything.
All right, good. You want my phone? You want to play some games?
Why do I need your phone to play games?
Yeah, you sure? I got Minecraft.
No, why do I need your phone to
Your
play games?
camera angle makes you look tiny. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the
Just
camera
realistic.
makes you look stupid.
Yeah, I know. That's my life. Anyway, the plan.
That's my
is-
niche. It's
That's
this,
my thing.
this thing, you know? I'm just supposed to be the stupid guy.
We're gonna go through the separate roles. Essentially, we're gonna go through tank, damage, and support, and we're gonna basically talk through the team. You know, some existing members, some new members, and at the end, we're gonna give our general conclusions as well as our kind of like rough rankings. And the general goal is that basically once all 20 team previews are done, we will be doing our official preseason rankings. And that's what you're all looking forward to. But we're not going to give you that juice just yet. We're just giving you, at the end of each episode, a rough ranking of
That
each
would be
team.
such a backwards way of doing it if we made a whole power ranking and then went through each team.
Yes, it would. That's
Yeah.
why we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Also, we
Alright.
need to make loads of videos, so that's why you guys have to watch all of the power rankings to get to our final one.
Yeah.
If you watch all of our videos, we'll have enough ad revenue to buy the 21st L team.
Yeah. We can put it in Chicago. We could put it in Berlin. Where else do people want one? Beijing.
I would like one in...
We want more European teams, do we not?
Nah.
No? Okay,
Another one
well.
in China.
Cape Town.
Cape Town.
Cape
Yeah.
Town. Oh,
Yeah.
Sure.
okay.
I don't know how the ping situation will work, but anyway, let's get into the. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Let's talk about the Gladiators. Let's start with the tank line, huh? Here we go. So is this up to date? I think it is.
It
yeah.
is up to
so
date.
Nice.
Yep.
So the
Yep.
tank line for this is going to be Muse and Space.
Yeah.
And Space, obviously, everybody knows, long-standing veteran. Do you guys want to start with Muse? Or you want to start with Space?
Let's start with Space because he's
Okay.
such a veteran of the scene. It's like you already kind of know what you're getting with Space, and well, the question is kind of, do you really? Because he played last year, and I wouldn't say his performance was spectacular, but he's still very highly rated and respected.
So, I will add that I think last year, for some players, and for a lot of players actually, I'm willing to give them a slight pass in terms of, I guess, individual performances, just based on the circumstances of playing during COVID, switching to an online format, staying indoors all the time. It's just terrible, I think, for motivation and just general gameplay. If players were able to excel in those environments, then fair enough. Fair enough. But I would argue that I think Space's performance last year was a bit indicative of the times that we were living in. But we know that Space.
Sorry, Bren. Are we actually? Are you guys rather sort of agreeing that Space wasn't that good last year?
I thought Space didn't play up to his potential last year.
Wow, the
He's a little
Plat
under-
off-tank rankings continue to just no.
No, I think last year you can say he was like a little bit underwhelming, but I think it just kind of plays into there was a lot of hype for that Gladiators team last year, and especially bringing in OG and like OG and Space is this like tank duo, and I don't think it
That'll
ever
work
lived up
with-
to it. But I don't think it was really like on Space.
No.
I actually think Space will have a pretty big kind of bounce back year.
Yeah.
Which is odd because, like, in a way, it's not really a bounce back because he probably was like this good last year. It's just they didn't really have a lot of synergy with that tank line.
I think it's dope. I don't really think this is an issue or something he has to prove. I think he's one of the, like, honestly, best off tanks in the league. Like, I think undoubtedly the best American off tank in the league. Like, Western overall, there's probably, like,
one, isn't there?
You know, there's, you know, the Fury, Void, etc. But I do think that Space is like one of the best players on this team, and is going to be like a big cornerstone of this team. So I would say that I'm very confident that Space will be like integral to this team. Yeah. And the big question, like Matt presented it, will be if he can gel with Muse actually and bring him up to speed. Because if Muse can be better in terms of synergy than OG was last year, that's already a big improvement for the Gladiators going into next year, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's the key, right? Is like actually having a duo that's functional. Because last year the Gladiators weren't really, and that's not. No. I mean, I don't even know whether it's fair to blame either of the individual players. I don't think you can like isolate either OG or Space and say that it was their fault or that they were playing poorly. But it just didn't work together at all.
Yeah, it didn't.
So hopefully, I think this is aimed to be an improvement. Having said that, though, I don't think that Space is like a top 5 off tank. I think he's probably
top 8?
A top 10, but the off tanks are crazy good in the league. Like crazy good in the league. I mean,
we should do a Plat chat episode when we do like rankings of each role, because people would love that, and I think it would be very eye-opening.
It'd be so hard, yeah.
It would be difficult.
It would be really hard. I mean, we could do that as part of the power rankings episode at the very end of these as well. Is kind of giving a rough idea. But I mean,
that's gonna be a sick episode.
4 hours.
Yeah. Maybe a totally separate one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you're never gonna be let down by Space, even if your attempts are to win the league. Space is never gonna let you down. Right?
I set the stage quite low, and to begin with Space, right? Because I'm like, okay, last year I didn't think he played up to his potential, but this year I am expecting bigger things, because I think the surrounding team has been without a doubt upgraded. Like you find in Overwatch often 1 or 2 pieces are just a little bit skew with in terms of how they mesh with one another, and you'll find that the whole team will begin to fall apart as a result of it. And I think that is a case of what happened with Gladiators, honestly. Last year with the tank line not meshing particularly well. They've upgraded their support line this year, which we're going to get into in a bit later. But I think all of these components, especially coming into this year, I think the situation is, a little bit more cleared up. It's quite clear in terms of, what's going on this year with the Overwatch League. And I think, at least from watching his personal stream as well, he seems to be in a much better headspace regarding like the future of the league. He's motivated. I mean, the guy's pushing for top 1 tank in the rank ladder. And I mean, you can meme about the rank ladder as much as you want, but he's playing the game a lot. He's motivated, and it comes across in just his day-to-day interactions. Yeah.
That was an issue with him last year as well. He lost that kind of like drive. He was talking on stream about how he was it seemed like he was getting overwhelmed with just being indoors all the time and grinding all the time and just getting lost in terms of the mental side of it. So it's great to see that he's back and really driven to succeed. Yeah. And I think the quality of the players around him too is just going to elevate him.
And I mean, moving on as well to Muse, because I think it's a pretty nice segue. We're talking about like the synergy. So much of this team's success is probably going to be pinning on the synergy of these 2 tanks. But Muse is relatively, I'd say, untested in the major kind of level of gameplay that we'd come to expect. And something I brought up when we first discussed this move on the Gladiators in an earlier episode, I believe it was episode 60.
Wow, you're actually going to try and say which episode it was.
Yeah, okay.
I believe it was episode 60 of Plat Chat.
You don't know the episodes before we start the show.
When Muse was added, I think it was episode 60.
I mean, what a punt in the dark that is.
That is such a gamble.
Sure it's episode 60.
The guy he has no fucking clue.
But what percentage sure are you? What is pretty sure for you?
72.
72%.
Matt's looking it up. Matt's fact checking you. I can see it.
I'm gonna.
So, but I said when Muse joined this team that rookies can be a bit of a risk.
Wait, which episode did you say?
60. Rookies can typically be a risk when you add them into a team. And your counterpoint at the time was, well, actually, typically rookies have had a lot of success in the league.
They have, yeah. I find rookies are, to me, the way that I think about rookies is that they are a risk, but their chance of paying off tends to be much hard. So if they work out, they tend to be almost immediately elite. Like it's rare that you get a rookie that's average or just above average. They tend to be either some of immediately the best players in the league, or they.
There's no way. Wait, he talked about it in episode 60. He did.
Wow.
It was one of the topics. That is such a swing. Like that is the most Brennan Hook thing ever. Completely make something up and like just hits.
He's the oracle, man. He's the oracle. He remembers the past and it predicts the future.
Well, okay. Wait,
I
what are we doing?
Sorry. I wanted to add on to this, to the point that I was making, though, is that I thought about this quite a bit in terms of rookies coming in. And I think the success of a rookie is honestly quite dependent as well on the structure that they're placed in. And typically where we've seen rookies fail in the past, I've focused on the bigger picture, and I'm like, okay, why do I think they haven't been as successful compared to the hypers when they were coming into the league?
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to the coaching staff, the structure that they're in. Whereas this year with the Gladiators, I'm not as worried about that compared to some other rookies in the past. And when we do see rookies succeed, it's because they have the immediate structure to bring them up to the Overwatch League level and to really form them into the player that the team needs.
That I think is crucial, Bren. That right there, to form them into the player that the team needs. Because allegedly, I read this somewhere, okay?
You allegedly read it somewhere.
I allegedly read something from an unofficial source. That's about as vague as it gets, okay? I might as well make it up. But you know, if I channel my inner Brennon, I might hit here. but allegedly, DP said somewhere that he didn't think Muse was as good as OG was individually yet, but they're trying to bring him there, right? And I think that is so crucial, what Bren said about making him the player that the team needs him to be. And that's exactly what the Gladiators needs, right? Because you have Space, who I think is a pillar of this team. And now you want to bring Muse in, a rookie. And he was the second most promising main tank coming from Contenders. Obviously, Mag was, you know, the front runner when it came to main tanks from Contenders. And now you can maybe shape Muse to become this main tank player that he really needs. We can get to this later when we talk about Gladiators as a whole. But I do think that the Gladiators this year, you can hype them up, talk them big. But it is still like a project that is ongoing, and I think this team will develop over time. And so I don't think that, you know, Muse coming out on week one is going to be like the next big thing. But I think over time, he really does have the potential to like grow into a main tank that will be really stable and good in the league.
I mean, he needs to be for this team to be good, right? You kind of like you really like what you see in terms of, you know, players over the whole roster. Like it's not like a make or break on him, but like we kind of saw what happened with the tank line last year. Even though this is a much upgraded support line, I know the DPS we still really love. I still think there's a lot of pressure for the tank line to perform. So like, I think they're going to be able to like, it's like almost the same story as last year. Where like the Gladiators last year, they didn't have a problem like beating the teams they were supposed to beat. It was against like those top teams that you kind of saw them struggle with at times. Like I think with this roster, it'll be the same. It's just can, you know, Muse put them over the top with the support line against some of those top teams.
I mean, yeah, apart from Boston, who for some reason always managed to beat the Gladiators. But yeah, it was generally like they just weren't able to really get it going. And what I love about how the Gladiators are built this season, though, is that Muse is basically the only guy you're taking a risk on.
Yes.
Like everybody else is
Skewed,
proven
maybe.
talent. Well, okay, but Skewed isn't gonna.
We'll
Skewed is
that.
unlikely to be played all the
there
time
yet.
over Shoe.
Yeah,
and
sure.
and in the, I feel like he's only going to be played in limited circumstances. So I'm not that worried about Skewed. I don't think he's going to have a large impact on the season. Muse is their only main tank. He's going to have a huge impact on the season. But he's also the only person that they really need to focus their attention on, because the rest of the team is they're all veterans. They're all veteran talents with various degrees of experience, but some of them, most of them, very, very experienced players. And so you can support Muse and grow him into the best main tank possible. You can try and maximize his potential because you're only really working on him and your teamwork. You're not trying to get everybody up to speed. And while I thought last year was a bit too experimental from the Gladiators, whereas this year you should have your fundamentals pretty down. So I'm feeling good about this tank line. I might not feel the best about this tank line in isolation, but when you consider it as part of the whole team, I'm pretty confident that they're gonna look at least above average, somewhere towards. Yeah, I mean, towards the top is pretty strong, but they're gonna be between average and the top.
Punching.
They have, like you mentioned, Josh, they have a good core roster to bring a new player into, like a rookie, right?
Yeah.
You have like Moth, Space, or you kind of like these players in the long term, Shu as well. Like they've been in the league, they've played with multiple different players at this point. Moth obviously a champion. Like if there was a team where a new player was to go and like find success or kind of adjust to the Overwatch League life the fastest, it potentially could be a team like this.
Yeah. Really experienced coach, incredibly. I mean, should we move on to the supports? Because the supports are just so well-rounded.
I mean, this is breaking the natural order.
Oh, is it
But
DPS next?
We can talk about the supports if you want, Josh.
Listen, let's do it your way. Let's talk about DPS.
I feel like you're name dropping Moth, you're name dropping Skewed.
Yeah, always name
dropping Skewed.
Yeah.
No,
Always.
the lower third has spoken. We're doing DPS. So the DPS line for this are all names you're going to be recognizing. There's no new additions. You got Birdring, you got Mirror, you got Kevster. And we know what these players are capable of from last year. They were the shining moments from last year's roster. I think that the Birdring Kevster DPS duo was phenomenal. And Mirror just kind of came in as this strange niche guy who just came in and filled in Zarya or like did he play Echo for them?
Can we decide this here and now? Like, what is Mirror? Like, what is his identity as a DPS player?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Like,
He's
we have these boxes and all these roles and stuff, and I just feel like I can't put Mirror like in a box. Like he's outside the box because he's that flexible, and I just don't know what he is.
He's a specialist.
I want to do this thing that society does these days. It's terrible. I hate it. But here I am, and I want to put a label on Mirror, which is so bad to do. But I just want to know, like even put it down in the comments below. Like you as a viewer, what do you think of Mirror? Like who is Mirror?
He's kind of like
he's a
hydration.
specialist.
Yeah,
he's a specialist, but he's a flex player.
I think of him a bit like Hydration. I think that's a really good example where he specializes in like the Pharah and the Doom and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he's also just their go-to guy to fix their problems.
Yeah.
And they had a lot
he's
of problems
the one plugging the
last
holes.
year. Yeah. He is.
Overall, I don't expect him to be having a big impact on the roster, but then again, I thought that last year, and I think he was playing Zarya for them, right? And
I mean, he played Zarya, he played Brig, and he played a bunch of DPS
he played
stuff.
a bunch of different.
He is the
stuff.
plumber of the LA Gladiators.
Yeah,
The plumber, yeah.
Plumber.
The plumber, yeah.
The plumber.
Yes, he
Reminds me of the
plumbs things.
Plumbus.
Oh, okay. Here we go again.
Rick and Morty.
Is the B silent? I don't know. Move on.
Big,
It is,
big
yeah.
Rick and Morty fan.
I didn't mean to pick it apart.
Birdring Kevster is a
Birdring
wild
Kevster
DPS duo,
Yes.
though.
Nasty, absolutely nasty. I mean, I've said my piece on it. I think they were the shining, the shining part of this team last year.
The jewel.
Yeah, they really were.
Yeah, especially people talk about like playoffs profit, but I think they are kind of wrong. I think playoffs birdring is what you should be talking about.
It was you that was selling that narrative.
Who? What? Playoffs profit?
Yep.
I mean, profit's always good. He just
It was
steps
him.
up in playoffs.
Him that was
Bracket
selling that,
Birdring.
peddling that
Birdring-
narrative.
Birdring has in his career normally been a big game player, like all throughout his career, ever since he was in Apex. He comes to the big games and he turns up. And he did that last year as well. Now, the only thing I'm concerned about with this DPS duo is that going into next season, we know that it's a shorter season. We know that the teams are playing less games. And so each game matters more. So even though it's a tournament structure, which should incentivize somebody like Birdring to always bring their A game when it comes to the tournaments, when every single match matters more, I don't know whether big game players are like better to
so?
have.
Well,
I don't know.
I think so. I think the mentality will be different. I think the players will like focus in on like, the counting down how many matches they have. So I think it will be different in terms of mentality for sure.
Yeah, because those like random losses they have to like a Boston, right, hurt way more in a season where there's less games.
Exactly.
And you
They
can
have
really
to
make that
really.
up. Like
You have to bring it every single game next year. Like every single one.
It matters so much more.
You can't afford to take a little portion of the season off and chill and then really peak at the end. I mean, you still can because you can still win the league by peaking towards the end in the playoffs. But in theory, to get a good seed, you have to be performing the entire way through.
But that is motivating, isn't it? I think.
Probably.
I think it is.
I don't know.
I think
I find it
because
hard to put
otherwise
myself
you're
in
just,
that
oh
position.
my God.
Yeah.
Oh
Wow.
my God. I think otherwise you are just kind of like you come into maybe a match and you're like you're not taking it as seriously. Or a week, a week of practice is like, oh, I'm playing against who so and so. It's like, oh, whatever. You take your foot off the gas a little bit. But if every match means so much more because there's because we're going into it with less of them, then I think for a player like Birdering, it can mean that you can be leveled up. I'm getting enamored by this gameplay.
He is just getting battered in a corner by fate.
He's in there.
He's just getting dominated.
God, he is a class player, though.
He is
a class player. And I'm really excited for Kevster again alongside him. I mean, Kevster was unreal last season.
Yeah.
And I think he was playing on ping the entire time, wasn't he?
Yep.
Is he playing... Oh, God, this was so good, actually. Is he playing on ping again this year? Does anyone know?
Oh, I should have checked that before the episode.
I mean, do we
don't know
even
if
have a way... Do we have to go to every single player that was playing on ping last year and ask them individually? Is there any way of knowing that?
Ask DPay.
I don't think there's like there's not like
cool.
a list of like where are you playing from type of thing. I have no clue.
He still dominated even on ping.
Check his location.
Yeah. Where's his location?
He did dominate on ping.
Yeah,
Check his
for sure.
Instagram.
Like, even if he's on ping, it's... I don't know. Is this a weird take? I'm like, well, it feels like half the league will be on ping, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's
Fortunately, Overwatch is one of the games that plays pretty well at like higher pings.
Yeah.
it does.
It does.
It does.
It does.
Yeah, it's.
I feel like Kevster has the potential to evolve his game, because I think he has, still room to improve, and he's great already. I think he has room to become like an all-star level player. And this could be the season he really grows into that. I think if the system of the LA Gladiators like go off to a hot start and he's able to consistently put up good performances, need the consistency, because some series like Kevster was just out of this world. I remember one specifically against Philadelphia Fusion on Genji. He was just like unbelievable on like Eikemalde. Yeah. But then other series, it kind of fades away a little bit. If he can find consistency, I think Kevster could be like an all-star level player in the Overwatch League. He has the potential to be that good. And that's just not, biased because Twitter. Like, he was actually that good. Like, he captured the game sometimes where he was just like, took over the game, and all you could think about was Kevster. So he definitely has the potential to become that good. And if he can unlock that, and the Gladiators can improve slightly, I mean, then you're like top 2, top 3 territory right there. So Kevster has to be really good for this.
You're knocking on the door of it, yeah.
The two people that I think can catapult the Gladiators to like a podium finish in North America are Kevster and Muse. Because obviously Muse has to be really good. Kevster's already set the baseline of he's excellent, but I totally agree with you that he has the potential to push himself into like elite DPS level territory. And it's not just his individuals, but it's kind of how he also works with Muse, because the majority of the time, in most metas that you can come up with, it's probably going to be those two that are playing together. Birdring's more of the guy that's going to play off on his own. Okay, maybe not if he's going to be playing the Tracer for the team, but it's hard to know exactly how the heroes are going to be divvied out between the two of them, because they're both damn flexible players. But I think that coordination and the peaks that Kevster and Muse can hit are what's going to define whether the Gladiators are just a good team in North America or a great team in North America. Like that's where I see the real growth for this team.
It's funny that you say that you think it's Kevster and Muse that where you're going to be starting to see if this team succeeds. Because for me, it's in the support line. And that's our segue into the support line.
Okay. Bren's MVP of last season, Moth.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think we just start right there, honestly. Moth, genuinely, I fucking love this player. I love this guy. I think he is so good at the game. Potentially he's honestly makes the case alongside Lee Jae-gong to be the best main support player in the Overwatch League, without a doubt in my mind. And they're pairing him with fucking Shu. This team is cracked, my guy.
Yeah,
like, look at this support line. Compare it to last year. It's like
leveled the fuck
It's ridiculous.
up.
It's actually ridiculous. And this is where the real meat of the stew is with the Gladiators now for me. You can get excited about the veterans who are returning, but Moth and Shu coming in is unreal. You have leveled up. You have essentially Shu, I think, is always punching into the top 5 without a doubt for flex support, potentially even higher.
Yeah.
Moth, number 1 is what you're making a case for when it comes to the main support role. Like, these two players alone are going to elevate this game, or they elevate the Gladiators to new heights. I mean, I'm going to keep gushing over this.
Well, the only reason that I didn't say Moth and Shu are going to define how good this team are is because I think you know what you're getting, and it's excellence from this backline. Like, I don't think it's a sliding scale where the Gladiators are going to rely on Moth and Shu to get better or anything. Mm-hmm. They're just always going to be really damn good, but they're not playmakers most of the time. Both of them are kind of
Shu can.
Yeah, but then more okay. But I don't think Shu is like a Violet when it comes to flex support, where he's taking the game and dominating it. Shu is more of the guy that's low key putting in ridiculously good performances, but he's not going to pop up in the kill feed all the time. But the actual impact he has on the game is mega high. That's how I think about Shu anyway. And it's somewhat similar to Moth. Moth isn't like an FD god or a Jexer where they're trying to run around, make as many plays, or Lige Gon. He's hyper solid, always going to be alive, always going to be in the right spots, always supporting the rest of his team perfectly. I mean, this was an excellent play. I remember this. And I think this is the perfect support duo to help the DPS and Muse pop off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, you want to go before me?
Yeah, I mean, it's a support line that doesn't need like a ton of resources either to be effective. Like, I feel like they can kind of watch the Kevsers and the Bird Rings of the world and really kind of empower them to like pop off and do well. And I think, like Josh mentioned, like it's not like an aggressive or like playmaking, like in your face type of support line. I mean, that's not really how Shu kind of played on Guangzhou. It's not really how Moth played on the Shock. It's really just kind of about a really solid support line that's not going to like lose you any games, but put everybody else in like a sick position to dominate. It's whether kind of like everybody else can come through.
Can I just ask, why does it look like Johnny's about to spout a hot take?
I'm not really about to spout a hot take, but you three people have really been gushing for these two support players. And I mean, that's fair play. Like, I agree with you that Moth, making a case for the best Lucio in the game and the best Mercy in the game, and then you have Shu as well. Like, I was on board the Shu train since like day one. His Ana play was incredible. Shu indeed. Like, I agree with you. This is a top tier backline, okay? Yeah. But we have to ask ourselves the question, like, could it possibly go wrong? Like, is there a meta or like something that could happen to where this backline is not as successful? Okay, worst case scenario. I'm not saying like consistently, but like worst case scenario, they miss a stage because of the meta or whatever. Is there a case where like Moth has to play the BAP and Brig and can't really give 100%, and like Shu play something else, or maybe they put in Skewed to play alongside Shu in like a double flex support kind of meta? Or are they forever going to be the ever truly reliable? Like, we look at the San Francisco Shock, who have like, or Violet and Twilight. Is it on that level, or is there like some kind of asterisk we have to put on this backline before we leave it?
I mean, I think there's there definitely is an asterisk. And you use the Shock as an example, which is really interesting because Violet and Twilight add Moth as well. And that's kind of, you would normally say like Violet and Moth, wow, what an incredible backline. But they still rotated a third person in to help supplement Moth. Because even though his Lucio and his Mercy are incredible, there are better Brigittas in the league by far. And actually, that is maybe something that he could work on. I'm sure that Moth could be great at that role if he worked on it more. It's just that he hasn't, I don't think. And I'm sure there would be better like BAP players if it was BAP Zen or like Zen players, whatever the hell Moth would end up playing. But that's kind of the point of Skewed on this lineup.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I don't know what we're really going to get from Skewed. he was on a really crap team. It's
What we saw
I mean,
him,
it's
though.
not even going to worth watching the VODs, to be honest, because they just got plowed repeatedly. So who knows? We watched him play a tournament.
The Valiant Winter
Winter
Ball.
Ball.
We watched Skewed play, and he was playing
Mostly Brig.
mainly. But it's hard to really determine the impact a Brig player has without really fucking honing in on it, you know?
He looked all right.
Yeah, I mean, Josh is clearly a savant.
I actually love watching Briggs at the moment. I've been watching a lot of Lee J Gone, and the skill ceiling for Brig is so high. I know that sounds like a nonsense statement, but Brig is I mean,
believe you.
The impact you have on that, or maybe the skill ceiling is the wrong way of putting it, but the impact you can have by being in the right place and using your abilities at the right time and like your read of the game, you can have so much impact.
Have you learned anything?
Oh, well, for my own play, fuck no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like saying, have you ever watched like Houdini? And you're like, oh my God, he's so good, he's so talented. And then you're like, well, if you've watched him so much, why don't you fucking do it? Why don't you escape from a glass box underwater? Like, no, I haven't learned the skills. I've just witnessed a magician.
That's different though.
How is that different?
How
have you got further down in your chair?
Me?
Yeah,
I'm chilling.
You're so...
I'm chilling. What's wrong with me? I'm hanging out.
Hello? You got games on your phone?
Yo, I was about to mention Johnny's fit. I couldn't stop laughing. I don't know why.
What do you mean?
When I saw
How is this a bad fit?
So when I saw your fit, yo, come closer so you can't see like the pockets. You look like a Swedish Indiana Jones, dude. You could look like straight out of like National Treasure or something. Yeah, you look like you're about to rob like the relics or something like that from a museum.
I like that on you, Johnny. I like that on you.
I like the
you
fit.
look good.
Yeah. Bro, go get a rope
you.
and like wail above your head. Like,
Don't let
A rope. A rope.
It's a lasso thing, right? That's
What
what
the hell
Indiana
what did you
Jones
just
had,
say?
a whip
A
or a
Rope.
lasso.
He thinks Indiana Jones carries around a rope.
I don't know.
Oh my
I've seen that shit.
God.
I've seen that shit on posters. I haven't watched
Hey,
it.
I'll take that. I'll take that. If I can be Indiana Jones, you know, who would turn down that? I do
Yo,
that.
Matt, I like your fit. Where'd you get that 7th black t-shirt from?
From my draw, I got an 8th in it. You want me to go change?
Yeah, I think to get back on track with Skewed, I don't really know how impactful he's going to be for this team. Could be that they mold him into a perfect kind of like substitute in terms of roles that Moth is not comfortable with. But time will tell with this. He's a bit untested.
I'm really interested, and I should have asked Deepe this at some point, but I haven't. I'd love to know his reasoning on why he picked up specifically Skewed for this role. Like there were other flex supports to pick from in Contender's career. I mean, was he just somebody that would accept being on the bench? Because that's valid, right? Like some of the players coming up from Korean Contenders would want to actually play. So it's possible that
he's probably said this in like a YouTube Q&A when we missed it, and like people will be like, "Oh my God, they don't know! They don't know the critical information."
If you know and you're watching right now, then put it in the YouTube comments so that we can learn.
Yeah, so we'll understand.
Don't you watch Contenders, Josh? Don't you watch the worst team in Contenders?
Yeah, no.
How dare you.
Then don't you watch the VODs of them just relentlessly getting plowed over and over again? Wasn't there a lot of useful information to glean from that? I started
Josh
watching
is
it
just
and I was
he's watching Russian Valorant. He doesn't have enough time for Contenders.
Taiwanese, actually. Been big on the Taiwanese scene.
Polish
recently.
Valorant.
Let's talk big picture with this team and our general expectations. Starting with you, Matt. We're going around a little circle here. What are your expectations for this team in terms of the placement? I want you to give me a general ranking as well, and we're going to come to a consensus near the end of this.
Well, how are we doing that? What's the
Well, I think we go around in a circle. We say our piece, our expectations, what we think, how far they could potentially go, and then our ranking from
what?
A to D.
A to D.
I don't know how rankings really work.
They usually use
but
numbers.
You mean
no. I mean, like we're doing like a tier, right? A tier system, but we're placing.
It's like a scorecard at the end of a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of.
Okay. So D would be like bottom 5.
The intention of this is to be as obfuscated.
Yep. That's the word.
Can I just say, like using letters as a ranking system is like one of the dumbest thing ever. It's like measuring weights in stone. Like, what are you doing? Like, come on, mate. Just use numbers.
Obfuscated.
Yeah, no, that's the word.
We're trying to obfuscate.
Yep. I mean, you're obfuscating the Correct.
We're trying to obfuscate
Definition of that
our rankings so that when we actually do the fated...
Obfuscate.
What happened?
Obfuscate.
Obfuscate.
Obfuscate. Obfuscate.
Well, when did you guys get those
Obfuscate.
trophies? Who won a baseball thing?
What?
I was on the
What?
show the other day.
These?
I didn't see that stuff.
Those are
well,
Wyatt's weekly
These are the
award
Wyatt's Weekly Award.
for Plat Chat
Yeah, we did this
Valorant.
like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, what?
You seen, you know that's Diva as well, right?
Yeah, did I pay for those? I didn't pay for those, did I?
I don't know who's paying for
The
those
trophies? Oh, Wyatt
Yeah.
can do it. He's got it.
I'm pretty sure Kurt asked us if he could buy them, and they were like $10 each or something. So we said yes.
No,
Because that
Wyatt
was
and I
nothing.
just spent our own money on it.
Damn,
Oh,
look
okay.
at that.
Trophies.
That looks like a baseball guy. What's
Matt,
the guy
tell
next to
me,
the baseball guy?
what are your
What are we
expectations
doing?
for this
What are you
team?
doing, Matt?
Oh, all right, fine. Yeah, what's my expectations for the Gladiators? I think, I mean, worst case, are they like 4th, 5th NA? You kind of look in NA, and I think there's Shock, Justice.
Mate, you're just giving away
Yeah.
the power rankings game.
Shut up, Matt.
I mean,
Just
well,
give us your
how do you
general
talk about?
thoughts.
Yeah, I think they'll be around 4th to 5th. I think there's some really good teams in North America that we can't talk about because they have
We're
to go in
getting
the
to
power
them.
rankings at another
You don't want to
episode.
spoil it so they don't fucking watch the few. We need the ad revenue.
Well, they fucking know these teams are in the league. It's not like we're announcing these teams are joining the league. Like they fucking know these teams exist. Like if I say 4th to 5th, they're gonna have a decent idea of who's above them. So I don't know if it's really that much of a spoiler. I think they have the talent though to become like
All right.
your number 2 team.
Johnny.
Best case scenario, this is the second best team in the West. Worst case scenario, they're probably down there, like 5th, 6th. Like if someone came from the future and like sat me down and was like, Johnny, the LA Gladiators, they came like 6th. They lost to a bunch of bottom tiers, like no one expected it. Muse turned out to be like the next version of insert bad main tank in the league.
Wow,
that didn't
you
get
don't
a ton
even
of
know.
playtime.
Don't even want to name
Mirror
any.
like got barely
Say
any
like
time
Roshan or something.
and just like flexed
Roshan.
around, and now he plays for Boston in AL 2022. Kevster went to go pick up mushrooms in Sweden's forest, like Snillo joined Snillo. Like if you were to tell me that, I'd be like, okay, that could happen realistically. Skewed and Shu started playing because they had good synergy or something. Like who knows? D-Play is no longer part of the LA Gladiators. Like, if you were to tell me all of those things, I'd be like, okay, well, there's a universe in which all that happens, and like that could be possible. But for the most part, this should be like a top 3 team in the West, and best case scenario, they should be the best team following the San Francisco Shock because they have the talent, and I think especially with their backline now and having Kevster in that DPS lineup alongside Birdring, this could be like a genuinely fantastic team if Muse is able to bring his A game to this team. But with the LA Gladiators, they always find a way to be like, oh, we're looking for our identity, or like, oh, we don't really know our style. We'll get there, So I still have those worries about inconsistencies and losing matches they shouldn't, while not really being able to clear that hurdle of like beating consistent teams like the Florida Mayhem, the San Francisco Shock. Maybe they'll lose to Washington Justice once, So this is really like a team that has a ton of potential in my opinion, but they need to prove that they're consistent before I'll just be able to drop every worst
Johnny,
case scenario possible.
you're aware we're trying to record another team preview tonight. You're just going on forever. You have 45 minutes. I mean, come on now. We gotta get them pumping.
Well, you weren't saying anything with your analysis, so someone had to double down.
Well, because Bren just screamed over me, I couldn't name any other team or compare them to anybody. I had to just just
Very
say, oh
general.
yeah, you'll see what we think about them in another episode when I can tell you what other teams are in the league. Like, go, Bren. Why don't you talk about them without naming any other? Yeah, Josh, you can't name any other teams or players in the league. You just have to talk about
You
this
have to very
team.
general. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah,
Okay.
just
All
this
right.
team.
I
Calm
would
down,
say
Matt.
they're a tier 1 team. They're gonna be
A team,
aiming
tier
for
A.
What?
We're
You
going
going
with
for tier A
letters.
or
Brent
tier
said.
1?
Yeah, we're going
Okay.
with letters.
Let me define what tier system I'm using. You're jumping down my throat before I've even spoken.
Yep, God.
So what I mean by that is they should be aiming for podium finishes, if not winning at least one of the tournaments throughout the year. Like every time a tournament happens in North America, they should be one of the teams that's looking to make a final, like a semi-final at the very least.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that is that. This is how personally I'm going to start thinking about the Overwatch League next year as well. It's like it's a series of tournaments now. It's not okay, it is one big overall regular season too, but each bite-sized piece is how deep you're going to make it in the bracket. And when I think about the Gladiators, I'm thinking about them as at least a semi-finals team, and they should be pushing finals, and they have a great chance to win one of the tournaments if a meta goes their way or if Birdring pops off or something like that. I don't think any team, looking at next year and how competitive it looks, I doubt that one team is going to dominate the entire year. It'll be a mixture of teams, and I think Gladiators they don't look like the best team in the league, but I think there's going to be enough flexibility at the top that Gladiators can steal a tournament win at some point, assuming things go well with Muse, which I think they should go reasonably well.
I'll say this before Bren goes.
Mm-hmm.
If the Gladiators don't make a stage final in the West this year, it's a disappointment, because they should at least make one stage finals this year.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Even if they're not the second best team, they don't have to be the second best. Like, you could just make one stage final and semis all the rest of the time, and you wouldn't be the second best in the year. But you should still have at least to peak at one point through the year where you can make it.
Executive decision. I'm placing them at B.
B?
B.
B.
Is S involved here? Is A the best or S?
A,
see,
I
this
think
is-
A is the best.
Well, then...
How many
two.
teams do you have in A?
B is like...
I think they're an A-tier team.
Yeah, like what?
Wait,
they're like A.
are we meaning in the entire league?
Yes.
Oh, no, I think they're a B-tier team in the entire
Tier
league.
2, because here's what
we're talking
we're
about the
doing every
whole
team
league.
combined, and I'm not allowed to name any teams or names or comparisons, but essentially, if you think big picture here, they are a...
I mean, they are
a
absolutely above
B-tier
average.
team.
100% they are an above average team.
They are an above average team, and I think they're punching into the A tier with an unspecified amount of teams in the A tier. But I think they are a B tier team at the moment, and I for the same reasons that Johnny has said, the inconsistency, the unprovenness that is surrounding this team.
Can I go out on a limb here as well and say that I think the inconsistencies from last year will no longer plague this team? When I look at this team, I feel relatively... I know that this is going to bite me in the ass because people are going to clip this when Gladiators lose to Boston again. Well, actually, Boston might be an all right team, but... sorry.
Fucking watch it.
All right.
That's your first
mentioned
warning, your
another
last
team.
warning, all right?
Sorry.
You do that again, I'm kicking you out. I'm getting fucking wired in.
The B word.
The fans don't know there's a team there yet.
Yeah, they don't know that we're doing that team yet.
All right, okay. The inconsistencies from last year, people might clip it when they eventually rear their heads again, but I don't think they will. And the reasons why, their backline is rock solid. They're absolutely proven. If you get inconsistencies out of this backline, then that's like the first time ever that they've had inconsistencies. The DPS line is elite. I mean, Birdring is sometimes middling to extremely hot, but if you're getting bad performances, inconsistent performances out of them, again, something's gone seriously wrong. It's only the tank line that I'm concerned about, and I think that's enough of a... They're less volatile than most other teams. I feel good about
Sideshow
them.
is guaranteeing consistency with a rookie main tank and two supports who've never played together.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
It's got Sideshow's seal of
There it
approval.
is.
I think that...
Interesting.
I think... Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
I think worst case
comfortable.
scenario, they're like middling, and they always only go up.
B tier. Agree? Or
I can't believe we
disagree?
went from a whiteboard and writing stuff down 1 through 20 and degraded to no whiteboard and ranking stuff from S to D.
Yeah.
A to
The
D.
reason is, the more we obfuscate it, then the more that the preseason power rankings are going to be good.
Mm.
So the more they don't really know how we're measuring this, or
The dumber, the better.
the mistier it becomes, and the more mysterious, and the more people look forward to it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Plat Chat Overwatch
Team
2021 team previews. Gladiators
2021.
edition. Yeah, 2021. It feels weird to say 2021. Was it really 2021?
Yeah.
It feels the same as 2020 where I'm just sat inside,
I'm fucking getting old.
just watching the world go
I'm
by.
getting old, man. I remember when I was a young guy.
How old are you really? I have a sourdough starter that I feed 3 times a day. How old are you?
What happened?
You have a... You have a sourdough starter that you feed 3 times a day.
I do.
That's like...
I love that. You got a little hobby going.
Yeah.
I mean,
I respect it. I don't want to put my jacket on. I'm going for a night on
What?
a town.
that's kind of Matt doesn't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Matt actually has
Matt's googling sourdough.
The hell
Are
is
you
that?
really googling sourdough?
I know it's the bread. What the fuck is the? What is he
sourdough
feeding?
starter. You need a anyway. Are we waiting until Matt discovers what a sourdough starter is?
I'm
yeah,
just,
it's
I'm
what,
hovering
you just,
over the stop recording button.
Yeah, you're just making fucking bread. You're just getting ready to make bread. Like, what are you trying to do?
All right.
Well, you need to
Thanks
keep
for
it
watching,
alive.
everybody.
Just order it, bro. Like,
see you for the next-
We have
we'll-
Postmates,
you
dude.
know.
Like, what are you ordering? Bread?
We'll see you for the next episode.
I'll
of
send you
the
some bread,
2020
bro. You need sourdough. I'll send
20
you the bread.
the
Stop
2021
watering your bread or whatever the hell you're doing.
team previews. We'll see you next time.
I think I killed Josh.
Goodbye.